Thanks for listening in with us. Before we start our discussion on the forklifts today at warehouse and operations as a career, I'd like to bring up 29 CFR 1910.178 again. My name's Marty, and I know you're probably tired of hearing about it if you've listened to all of our shows, but it's a rule, and as you know, I'm a strong believer in practicing every safety thought and every regulation. A bit about the reg from OSHA.gov. You should go through it and check it out. It's actually kind of insightful, and we want to be professionals, right? It states in section 1910.178, subcategory L, subcategory 1, the employer shall ensure that each powered industrial truck operator is competent to operate a powered industrial truck safely, as described by the successful completion of the training and evaluation specified in this paragraph. And it goes on to explain the rest of the reg. Simply put, just never get on or walk up to or touch a piece of powered industrial equipment until you have been trained to do so. Do what's right. Take the course, pay attention to the videos and the instructors, pass the test, and carry the certification card with you while at work. Otherwise, just leave the equipment alone. And as we've learned, your employer will probably be giving you the course for free when you're hired or when you're promoted to a position where equipment usage is needed. I loved my tenure as a fork driver. My first forklift was a counterbalanced cushion wheel forklift, a type of set-down lift. And I was hauling washers and dryers from the rail docks to the shipping docks. I grooved on that job as I literally hauled product all day long, rarely had to actually rack anything or place them in the rack for storage. I kind of fell into the opportunity to move from general labor and unloading the rail cars to a lift position because one day like 3 lift drivers left for an out-of-town trip together on a Friday. Now let's talk a bit about a few of the different types of lifts and the lift driver position. For today's discussion, we'll stick to just the light industrial lifts. I've seen very few high-capacity lifts and only actually driven one. Found it very interesting, but I don't think I'd like working in that environment at all. Things are just too heavy for my taste. I've seen a lot of propane and electric-powered counterbalanced sit-down lifts, both cushion and pneumatic wheels, in the production warehouses or the production world. They're the perfect tool for covering a lot of dock area. The smaller ones can be driven inside trailers, containers, and rail cars to unload or load pallets also. Typically, the mask is lower, especially in a production setting. Usually there's less racking or storing of pallets than, say, a distribution center where the purpose is bringing in products and shipping them out over a large customer base or area. It's not uncommon to see vehicles like electric walkie pallet lifts in these settings also. Basically a walkie pallet jack, but the forks will carry a pallet up like 3 or 4 feet to store in the pick slots. Probably shouldn't be used for reserve slots or storage slots, I wouldn't think. Asking around and talking to a few people, I've came to the opinion that in the production area anyway, the quickest way to advance to the fork positions is through the docks, unloading and loading the trucks and possibly any type of order pulling that they may have. In these areas, it seems you're exposed to more product and pallet moving, so naturally you're seen around the operation a lot more. This is where you really want to let your bosses know that you have interest in learning the equipment and the job. A few people I've spoken with brought up that they wanted to learn the equipment so they could move and unload the trucks quicker and not have to wait on someone to come by to move it out of the way for them. A great approach to use with your management and get them to give you that training. Remember, we're talking in general here. Your facility may have a very directed progression path, so figure out what it is and let someone know what you're wanting to do in the job that you'd like to earn. In a distribution warehouse, especially the large facilities, the forklift position can be one of the most sought after. As we've learned, our first objective coming from the general labor positions to get our foot in the door and learn some equipment use is probably going to be order selecting. Order selection is fast-paced and pays well, but there's another benefit to it. We learn to work and move safely and take a bit of responsibility with the product. And we learn all the product, what it looks like by sight. After a couple of years of selecting, you'll know every product your company carries. Many times the forklift can be that next step for us. A fork driver is typically much more than just driving the forklift around the warehouse. You'll be working closely with the receiver, kind of his backup if you will, and we'll need to know every item, and we have the responsibility to get it to the correct slot and the proper reserve slot or storage area. Think about this responsibility. If you have, let's say, 20 order selectors pulling orders to, say, 100 different customers, and we put the wrong pallet in the slot, we've just caused a lot of problems. The selectors could be misshipping the product and the customers delivered the wrong product. Maybe those customers are in 5 different states and needed the item for a promotion. Think about the expense we just created and the inconvenience that we've caused. That could be an expensive recovery effort. Typically, in a larger distribution facilities, the fork driver positions do pay quite well, and as we're learning, the positions with responsibilities will usually pay more because more is asked of us. Operation and safety is a bit different in the larger facilities as well. There are typically a lot more traffic and things going on in a distribution warehouse, both regarding the receiving shift and the shipping shift. When bringing in and receiving 100,000 cases a day, shipping over 100,000 cases a shift, things are moving at quite a pace. The aisles may be a bit narrower. There could be a lot more of them, and typically the stack or how high the uprights are is much taller as well to accommodate all the pallets of product. The equipment used can be different as well. Your facility may use a set-down rider, may be used on the docks for product movement and unloading trailers or containers, a narrow aisle reach truck for placing product in pick slots or reserves. Some of the more specialized lift trucks could be narrow aisle straddle trucks. It's a type of stand-up lift. A narrow aisle order picker. Back in my day, we called them cherry pickers. A machine that you should respect regarding fall protection. An additional certification you'll need is you'll be wearing a harness and lanyard as you go up in the air with the platform and the product. A narrow aisle side loader high lift. A fork that extends sideways so you don't have to turn into or towards the slot, you just extend the pallet into the slot. The turret truck is one of the newer narrow aisle trucks that I've seen. I really want to drive one of these. Check it out on YouTube if you get the chance. All the lifts that I've mentioned can be found on YouTube. It's interesting to look at them all. Fork driver is a great goal to have. It's a challenging position and carries with it a lot of responsibility and a lot of rewards and experiences in the workplace. It's important, as you'll learn when introduced to forklifts, or really any type of powered industrial equipment, that pre-trips and post-trip reporting needs to be filled out daily, and in many instances your department may have their own safety meetings regarding battery safety and fueling safety, any kind of procedures that are special like that. These are important and, well, just part of those responsibilities we're speaking of, right? Forklift operation is dangerous. You have to stay focused on the task, and there is absolutely no room for horseplay of any type. Take your training seriously. Along with your initial training and certification, there's going to be ongoing training requirements as well. A few of the dangers drivers face are crossing pedestrian walkways, riding up and down ramps, slick floors. Condensation and floor sweating can be a real concern. You'll never want to hit or bump a rack, and remember, it's our responsibility to properly place the pallets in the rack, and we have to make sure the pallet is in good shape and the product is properly stacked. You don't want anyone getting hurt by falling cases. Those are just a few of the precautions off the top of my head. Your training will explain how to handle or avoid these situations and many, many others. A few other things your instructor will cover with you is always check the weight capacity plate on your lift and teach you a bit of math about center of gravity and load conditions. The instruction and training you receive, either classroom or hands-on, is important. Please pay attention and apply what you learn. I can guarantee you'll be evaluated and observed throughout your probation period, and you want to be the most safety-conscious operator in the facility, right? Being a lift driver rarely means you won't be moving product by hand anymore. Stacking and offloading freight from pallets and all the typical freight moving requirements of the warehouse. Experience in a warehouse environment is the only path that I know of to forklift positions. Don't rush it. I've known several young people that jumped on the lift too early in their careers only to get discouraged and face a long-term setback regarding the position. Like I said, I loved my position on the lifts, and I learned quite a bit about warehousing and moving product during those years. I hope we answered some of your questions and you feel you got something out of today's show. Please leave us a comment on the website or on our Facebook page. By participating, we can all learn from each other. Have a great week. Let's make caution the word of the month. Think of a safety thought and send it to us. I'll post it on the website, and we'll share it in an upcoming episode.